Alright, so today's reading is going to be a little bit different than what I usually do here on the channel. So if you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. This is going to be a very special reading, and we'll see how it goes. I might end up doing more like this, but if this has found you and you have never seen me before, I am going to say that is for a reason, as this is something I don't usually do. And what I'm going to do today is, this is going to be a pretty long reading. I'm thinking around 40 minutes, maybe even to an hour. And we're gonna go really deep into this, okay? And I just feel like that's so important today. Usually when I do readings, I have a general idea of what's going to come forth. But today, this is something that needs to be kind of like worked out. So welcome. Take a seat, get a snack. And always keep in mind as I'm reading, take what resonates and leave what doesn't, and feel free to subscribe and like the video if you're enjoying it. So let's start with this deck, and as I shuffle, I'm just going to chat a little bit. A bit of a chatty reading, I guess, today. Long chatty reading, but yesterday I had such a beautiful spiritual day. I did a really deep channel for myself, which is part of why I feel so called to do a reading like this today. Learned some really great stuff going forward, what I should be focusing on. We got outside, it was a beautiful spring day. And something interesting about this is that, okay, we have teamwork here. Something interesting about today is that when I woke up, everything was yellow outside, and so that means there's a fire somewhere. Which is interesting because there's nothing that I could see about there being a fire anywhere, and it's just kind of interesting that when I look at the back of this card, it almost kind of looks like very like foresty, forest fires. We do get forest fires quite a bit over here, but we have teamwork coming through here. And I'm bringing up the energy of the forest fire because I do feel like that's relevant to this collective. The energy of a forest fire is complete destruction, right? But to me, fire energy is always very alchemical. It transmutes things like that. I mean, the act of combustion itself is very scientific. It turns something into something else pretty much almost immediately, if we're to light a piece of paper, that paper turns to ash. It is transmuted, right, into a different state, right? And so when we look at the imagery of a forest fire, that is like a complete landscape being changed and transformed. And also I think something that is very prevalent to this imagery here with forest fires is that every time a forest burns, it comes back so much stronger and so much more lush, right? But we have teamwork here. Oh, I'm also hearing the lyrics. I think it's A Burning Hill by Mitski, and it's I am the fire and I am the forest and I am a witness watching it burn. And so like that's basically saying that it's like I am the fire, but I'm also the forest. I am an agent of, rebuilding and building myself again. But also I am the witness. I am that detached, seeing where this will take me, right? So we have teamwork here. And the essence of this card, this is the Urban Crow Oracle, so crows may be significant for this collective here, but the Urban Crow Oracle always has a little bit of information about crows. And so this card represents how crows like to work with other birds like hawks. And they work together to, keep territory, to hunt. Oftentimes crows are scavengers. So a hawk might, come along and leave scraps for the crows to kind of pick apart. Actually, I had a McDonald's sauce in my yard. I don't know where it came from. And they were taking turns. There was around 7 or 8 crows all standing in a circle around that McDonald's thing. I think it came from my neighbor's house. It flew over here. And they were standing and taking turns eating out of it. And I looked at it, I was like, I got binoculars and I looked at it and it was like hot mustard. And I was like, I didn't know crows liked hot mustard, but good for them. And right, so with this teamwork card here, what I'm receiving with this, also I'm being drawn to the poppies here at the bottom. What I'm getting here is somebody that you looked up to might have led the way for you into like this new era of your life. That's what I'm hearing, and obviously we'll expand on that, but especially with the poppies here, I'm hearing that this might be somebody who is no longer with us or just with you. You know, poppies are remembrance. You know, we have Remembrance Day here in Canada. I think it's called Veterans Day over in America, and you know, I don't know what it is in other countries, but we call it Remembrance Day here. And poppies, you know, are that symbol of remembrance, you know. And on Remembrance Day, you know, at least where I'm from, usually we don't actually just remember fallen soldiers. When I went to school, we were also allowed to wear poppies in honor of fallen, you know, just grandparents, people who we just missed. You know, it's Remembrance Day here. It's not just Veterans Day. And so I just like this teamwork here, and looking at how there's this crow that's in the forefront leading this family of crows. Like, I just feel like there was somebody in your family or in a friend group or something like that. Maybe even, I'm also hearing like maybe a celebrity as well, that, or even like a fictional character as well. Like, I think fictional characters can really like shape the way that we experience our lives, right? And like media and consuming stories, and that is all so important, right? And so I just feel like there was something here, family member, some guiding figure in your life that has been influencing you in some way. Like I feel like there's a part of you that's like, I want to honor them. I want to honor them. And that's really beautiful. And that is teamwork, you know, that is teamwork in a way, to say that, you know. Oh, I'm also hearing the song. This is Marjorie by Taylor Swift, and it's a remembrance of her grandmother, who was an opera singer. And, you know, Taylor Swift's a freaking massive musician, right? And I think it's the bridge where it goes, all your closets of backlogged dreams and how you left them all to me. And that's basically saying that, like, her grandma wanted to be a famous singer, and she did that. You know, her grandma instilled that kind of love of music for her as a kid. And she became freaking massive, you know? So that's just kind of like that energy there. All right, let's get one more card from here. But yeah, the camera's really not picking it up, and it's kind of disappointing me that, like, it's so orange in here from the fire, and it's so beautiful. Usually here we get a lot of fires in places that people don't live, so that's very good. But it's because where I live, we have a lot of like uncharted territory, like where people, like where there's no houses and stuff. Like, there's so much like undeveloped land where I'm from, and so that's usually what tends to catch on fire. Oh, this is so interesting. We've pulled the ghost card. So yes, this is 100% somebody, some sort of person that is no longer with us here. And again, imaginary friends as well. I'm feeling like imaginary friends as well, like something that isn't in a tangible form, you know, whether that be maybe ever in the sense of like an imaginary friend, but also maybe not anymore, you know, physical passings and deaths. But this can also be somebody that is just not in our life anymore, whether that be from, you know, falling out, again, like I said, maybe friendships. I want to read this card from the book though, but also just taking a look at it, there's this crow and it's flying through a graveyard, and I really love the imagery on this card. It's flying through a graveyard, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but all these little like crow ghosts are flying with it, but you can't really see that. The crow can't really see that, right? And interesting, I'm being called here, on the bottom of the deck we have gifts. So this might even be a generational gift that you're holding. Think, you know, psychic energy here. Or any generational talent. Like I said, again, calling back to that like Taylor Swift reference there. All right, so ghosts says, Shadows of the past, let them visit, but don't let them stay. They no longer hold substance in your world, and if they linger too long, they may become trapped in your psyche. Have you ever found yourself having an argument with someone who wasn't even in the room? Again, kind of carrying that energy maybe of somebody who isn't in our lives, but also still makes a lasting impression on us, right? Like, I know in my life I've had friendships that, I don't like who you are anymore, but there was a time where I liked who you were, right? And I liked who I was when we were together, right? And, right, so it, like, things change, people change, but you can still hold on to what that person provided you at that time, even if you don't like who they are now. And, I'm even going to bring up, like parents, grandparents. Like, I know in my personal life, my grandparents aren't very good people, but I also know that I had some of my best memories with them. And I also know that I have some of my worst memories with them. And I also know that my grandma doesn't call me ever. If I call her, she hangs up on me, right? Like, but also, like, when I think of that, it's like when I was a kid, that was the person that I looked up to the most. The person that I looked up to the most won't even call me anymore, right? So yeah, that's just an example that I'm sharing. The argument plays out in your head. The situation that brought about the feelings and emotions that led to the internal disagreement is a ghost, like a ghost repeating the pattern of walking through a room as it has done each night since its human form has passed. That's interesting. There's a crow. There's a crow. Why he screaming? Why he screaming? Why he screaming? Anyway, I'm being called to this lyric again. So many lyrics coming through here, but that is a big way of like how I how I heal and how I do shadow work is through music. Noah Kahan, I think it's Haircut. I've been listening to so many songs by him. They're all kind of becoming jumbled into one. The new Great Divide album is really great, so you might better. I'll put the link down below in the description for all these channeled songs. But there's a lyric that says, "Now you stumble around like a ghost, telling people how you died." So that's interesting. There's nothing that can be said or done that will change what occurred. Ghosts asks you to examine your feelings regarding a past event. Are you able to find acceptance and move forward into healing? Are you unable to forgive or seek forgiveness, allowing old wounds of the past to remain open? Pay attention to when ghosts appear. They may indicate the source of a block. It might be time for an exorcism. Ooh, that's fun. I like that. I like exorcisms. And then, yeah, here we have gifts, which I think is very important to, like, go with this teamwork and ghosts here. I think that this energy is very, like, very heavy of, like, a past person that it's, like, you've grown apart, but it's, like, there's still, and this doesn't even have to be a past person in the sense of, like, I think take this as it applies, right? Whether that be physical, whether that be, I think also it could be a mind state of, like, the past version of you, right? Because I know in my past version of me, there's so much that I can learn from her. But also there's so much that, like, I'm glad to have let go, right? So this might be a call to, like, work with your past self as well. And that's kind of the energy that I was getting here with the teamwork is, like, there might be somebody that at the time you were close with and you liked the version of you that they brought out, even if you're not with them anymore, right? So that might be important for somebody here. But yeah, gifts is very important here with these cards, because that, like, when I hear the word gifts, like, obviously this is, like, physical little trinkets, but when I hear gifts, when I see that gifts card, like, I'm getting generational gifts here. It's interesting too because it's like I've had friends at my point, like at points in my life where it's like I feel more like psychic with you, I feel more spiritual with you, right? And then, like, we've grown apart, we don't talk anymore, right? But I can still tap into that energy, right, of who I was with you, right? And I think that's a powerful thing to think about. And the crows are so loud today. I'm very much enjoying this reading today. It's a nice cool day in my sunroom too. Sometimes when I film in here I get way too hot. Oh, I just saw him fly by. There's also a kite stuck in my neighbor's tree. I watched them get it stuck in that tree and I thought they would pull it down, but they haven't. So So I guess we're just gonna leave that there, but it's kind of cute. It's kind of cute. Okay. This card almost fell out, so I'm gonna take it. Well, it did fall out, and then I caught it. What does that say? Prosperity lies ahead, new moon in Taurus. Okay. This is interesting. I like to use these Moonology cards not only as like timing as well. The next new moon in Taurus might be significant for you. Here, I'll Google that for you guys. I'll pull it up. The next Taurus new moon is in spring of 2027. So spring of 2027, I'm hearing, is when a new cycle will begin. So the rest of this year is going to be focused on closing out a cycle, and you're going to be beginning a cycle of heavy prosperity. So what I'm getting here is it's like, think of your biggest manifestation. Okay, think of it. But no, think of it, right? Like for my biggest manifestation is I want to live in a really nice house on the lake. That's my biggest manifestation. Okay, I'm a simple gal. I just want to live in nature on the lake. Okay, but that's really expensive where I live, right? So that's my goal. And if we think of that as like, what do I need to achieve there? Oh, well, I need a good paying job, you know, right? So I'm hearing that in this year of 2026, we're going to be building up what is required in order for this new cycle of the big manifestation to come in 2027. So again, I'm just going to use myself as an example of the kind of energy that this is bringing. So again, like I said, let's say that spring 2027 is when I start the cycle of actually like looking for a house on the lake, buying a house, you know. Then if that is the new cycle that I'm beginning in 2027, where I'm actually, you know, pursuing that manifestation, then this cycle that is ending here is one of lack, of one of, you know, healing all those wounds regarding lack so that I may move forward and begin a career, right? We have a time to give rather than to take, and hold your vision here. New moon in Virgo. New moon in Virgo is, it's about preparing for the new cycle that you want to begin, and hold your vision. Pretty self-explanatory there. So yeah, like right now in 2026, the rest of 2026, that's going to be your focus here right now for you, is going to be closing out a cycle, like healing, like healing what needs to be healed, so that moving forward in 2027, we can actually start taking action on the big manifestations, right? So I like to think of, when it comes to manifestations, when we have one big manifestation, there's a lot of little mini manifestations that we need to make along the way, right? So like, for example, let's say you want a partner, you want your dream partner, right? Well, okay, what do I need to manifest along the way, right, to get that, right? Because it's like, if we think of the dream partner, right, it's like, who do you want to be when you're with them, you know? So it's like, maybe you want to look a certain way, maybe you want to act a certain way, right? Because it's like, when I think of my manifestations, there's always that ideal version of myself that goes along with it. And that's why I've actually been, you know, taking those practical steps in my own life, you know, because it's like, oh, yes, when I picture myself in that dream house, who am I? Well, I'm also wealthy, you know, and when I say wealth, I don't even just mean material wealth in order to sustain living somewhere like that, but also, like, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy internally, I have people that, you know, I'm gonna invite over to that house, right? I'm abundant in all forms, right? And so it's like, yeah, I've been working on that. I've been working on becoming the ideal version of myself that I picture when I've received those manifestations. So, you know, I think that is going to be highly beneficial to start working on those things as we, you know, end 2026. 2026 is going by so fast. It's actually crazy. Oh, I just dropped all the cards. Okay, you know what? This deck is done. Because every time I try to shuffle it, I drop it. So, and no more from that deck. And yeah, you know, prosperity lies ahead. And also just calling back to that new moon in Virgo there. New moon in Virgo is very, very important in terms of how we achieve what is coming towards us here. And new moon in Virgo, like, I'll literally read from the book from there. Gradual improvements are coming. Pay attention to detail if you want success. The person you're asking about is reliable. Okay, so for those of you that might be manifesting a relationship. But here it says, When this card comes up, it's time for you to take stock of your situation. Where are you and where do you want to go? This new moon energy suggests a restart, and the Virgo energy suggests that you make that restart a clever one that's simple and well organized, which is also, something I've been doing in my own life recently. Is like really like, I think when we're like younger, like I'm in that transitionary phase of like going from like teenager to adult, like I'm 20, I'm turning 21 later this year, where it's like I feel like when you're like younger, you're kind of like you're like, I want to be so different and like like really express that, like through different like whatever. And I've just been like, this is just an example, right? In my personal life, I've just been like, you know what, I'm lazy. Like I don't really like, I've been dressing more like comfortably, and just kind of like 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 I'm looking more towards like looking put together rather than like loud, which that's not a bad thing, but that's just something personally that like in my own wound, like I'm a Virgo rising, right? So like Virgo risings, like I feel like we look best and I feel like we express ourselves most authentically when we are comfortable and down to earth with how we dress. And I know that has always come naturally to me, but in my teenage years, I felt the need to like, and I grew up in a time where like aesthetics were like very big, right? So like I always kind of felt the need to be like very like, like put together like aesthetically and like be like, this is the one thing that I'm gonna follow. Whereas now I'm just like, I'm just gonna wear stuff that like looks like comfy, but also like doesn't make me look, like I haven't showered in 3 days, right? To the best of my ability, right? Because that's just who I am, and it's been so freeing to like simplify my life like that and to be like, no, actually I don't have to think about things like so like drastically just so I feel like I can fit in, because like for me there was a wound there of like feeling that I needed to express myself, like overly express myself through the way that I looked, because I was afraid of being like misinterpreted. So, like take that as it is. But I think some of you might be benefiting in this next phase of your life, like all of this to say, some of you might be benefiting from, simpling things, dumbing things down is what I was gonna say. And I mean that in like a nice way. Except that like things can be simple. I just, sometimes like we can't accept that like sometimes I feel like we have to be like so like different or like, because we feel different on the inside, and it's like, yeah, you can be that, and that's always going to shine through because that's who you are. You don't have to like I don't know, like I don't know where I'm going with that, but like, okay, another lyric's coming to mind. This is from Chemtrails Over the Country Club by Lana Del Rey. And she goes, "It's beautiful how this deep normality settles down over me. I'm not bored or unhappy. I'm still so strange and wild." And I actually really love that song because it's like, when we think about that, think about those lyrics, chew on those. It's like, it's beautiful how I have come to a point in my life where I'm able to accept myself wholly for who I am, where I can just be myself, and not feel the need to act a certain way or, present myself a certain way. Sometimes even to get validation, I know I went through a period probably when I was like maybe like 15, 16, where it's like I felt that I needed to present myself a certain way so that I could like validate my sadness, That's actually kind of cringe when I say that out loud, but like stuff like that, right? Where it's like, I think as we become more comfortable in ourselves, we're able to, just kind of be more calm. And also, on a grand scale of things, capitalism and all that, it's like, I'm not wanting to participate in that as much as, maybe childhood me, teenage me, might not have realized where, people were, saying buy this, buy that, and it's like, it's not that big of a deal actually. Yeah, that just might be relevant for somebody, take take what resonates there and leave what doesn't, you know, if you resonate with that concept, or some of the more direct stories in that. Okay, we got 4 cards here. These are very interesting. For some of you, you're going to be manifesting both of these things, but I think it's so interesting that these came out, because it's quite literally, for those who are manifesting abundance, you are going to receive it, and for those who are manifesting love, you are also going to receive that. And if you're manifesting both, then congratulations, because very positive sign here. So what we have here is the Ace of Pentacles leading into the Ten of Pentacles. So that's a very positive sign, because that shows a full cycle here, a cycle that is beginning financially, abundantly, you know, with our earthly pursuits. Earthly pursuits are money, the way that we present ourselves, our home, right? You know, so it's like there's a cycle beginning there, something new that you're deciding to start in regards to, again, our earthly pursuits, whatever that means to you. That's going to end very positively. This is a full completion of a cycle here. So it shows that whatever you're planning to start is going to bring you massive rewards. Now, it's not without struggle, you know. It's not without struggle. But it is positive. It's going to be something that is very long-term and very stable here. And then also here with the Queen of Cups leading into the Lover's card. Usually I don't read the Lover's card as actually representing romance, but in this case, I'm going to say that it is, because the Queen of Cups card is pretty much like the Divine Feminine card, you know, outside of the Empress and the High Priestess, like outside of the major arcana. And basically what this is to me is it's somebody that has become so secure in the self that they now attract others inward into their space. Right? So I'm just hearing in my head, just keep doing you. Just keep doing you. And people will find that. People will resonate with that. Again, whether this be, I'm also hearing like this could be community as well. The Lovers is a partnership that you have to continue to choose every single day, right? Lovers is a choice. There's like this quote, I think it's like from Tumblr or something, where it's like, is love something that happens to us, or is love a choice? And I think like their college professor is like, it's a choice. You know, I could get up and leave my wife any day, you know, any day she annoys me, or, you know, like I could leave her, but I don't, because I love her and I choose to overcome the struggles that we encounter, right? And it's like that with everyone, right? Like you can choose to say, today's the day that I'm done, you know? It's a choice to love people, you know, and I don't mean that in the sense of like sexuality and stuff, because that's not a choice, right? But the choice of choosing to show up for somebody, right? That's a choice. When I was shuffling this deck, the Self ended up on the bottom, which I felt very called to, like I felt like that would be important in the reading, and now I see why. So I am going to read that one from the book. This is such a big oracle deck. I love this oracle deck so much, though. I highly recommend it if you do not have it yourself. And like if you're into reading stuff like that, if you're into reading for yourself. This is the pocket version though, because the big version is quite expensive, and I wasn't gonna pay that. But I do wish I had the bigger version, because the book is so tiny. Anyway, look at that. That's so pretty. Okay. The Self is the prism that allows the spectrum of our personalities to radiate. It does not judge, prohibit, suppress, or oppress any parts of itself, as it lovingly knows that all aspects have a time and place and leads us to experience the full breadth of life's offerings. The Self is the central abiding container, the awareness of the infinite universe of possibilities. When this card appears, it's a call to step back into witness consciousness, to observe yourself navigating the world. Ask yourself, am I the stew or am I the chef? In most situations, our ego draws us into the cauldron where we swirl, spin, and smolder in chaos. Yet the Self is a graceful culinary dancer, watching, waiting, observing as the spectrum of ingredients becomes the flavor of our life. Look in the mirror for 30 seconds or more and try to see the you behind the you. This is interesting as well. Some of you might resonate with this. Me personally, after I do this, I'm going to, this was my plan anyways today. I'm going to make some sigils today, and I'm going to charge those with my moon water that I have. And like I was going to put a sigil on the mirror for like self-love, you know. So some of you might benefit from doing that as well. Sigils are very easy to make. You can just Google it, it's very easy. It's no surprise that two central mantras in the yoga tradition concern themselves with the self. Experiment with So Ham and Satnam. I don't know how to pronounce that. If this card is perplexing for you, you are on the right track. It challenges us to expand our sense of identity beyond the little self, and the ego resists such movement. Interesting. So yeah, there's a very like big overarching relationship in this spread of like reconnection with selves in all aspects. You know, I'm kind of like looking at this as like slices, like almost like a wheel of time. Like if you look at like an astrological wheel, how it's like split up into like, you know, like the different signs, and as we move through that, like it's almost like moving through different areas of your life here. So like revisiting the past is very prevalent here. And revisiting the gifts, you know, from the past. That's like what we talked about earlier. And again, closing off, you know, final cycles so that we can move into the big manifestations next year. Yeah, very positive stuff here. And I think I'm just going to leave it off at that with, you know, I think that the self card is a very good wrap up for this. If you enjoyed and you feel that you resonate as being a part of my collective, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video, as that really helps me out. And feel free to comment down below. I love chatting with you guys, so feel free to comment down below. And I'll see you guys in the next reading, and goodbye for now.